So, real quick before we get into the meat of this discussion, no pun intended, I want to get some things on the table because I think that there will be times during this conversation where it feels as if I am picking on romance novels. I promise that is not the case. The reason I know that is not the case is because it would make me an absolute hypocrite. One of the things that I made a name for myself in my undergraduate degree program doing was making the full throated, close fisted argument in favor of comic books. And I asked Grok for some statistics and got this. Recent statistics on the gender breakdown of comic book buyers can vary depending on the source and the specific segment of the market being analyzed, e.g., superhero comics, manga, or graphic novels. One report from 2017, based on data presented at New York Comic Con by NPD Bookscan, indicated that 63% of comic books were purchased by men, while 37% were purchased by women. This figure aligns with the broader trends in the traditional comic book market, particularly for superhero comics sold through direct markets like comic shops. Now, you might bring up the argument romance novels and comic books are not a one-for-one translation. There is no one-for-one translation, stopping short of, for example, Playboy. The thing with this is a gendered type of literature by and large. 63% of comics being sold to men is a very large percentage. I argued for that. I don't see very many arguments in the mainstream for comic books, but we do have a lot of creeping up arguments for romance novels. I got this answer from Grok when asking about the romance novel market sector. Based on available data, women make up a significant majority of romance novel buyers. A 2014 survey by Nielsen Books and Consumer Trackers, cited by the Romance Writers of America, RWA, found that 84% of romance book buyers were women, with men accounting for 16%. More recent studies and industry insights suggest this gender split has remained relatively stable. So, though more women are buying comics than used to be, the gender split in romance novels is the same. Though some estimates indicate that the percentage of female buyers could be slightly lower today, due to a gradual increase in male and gender nonconforming readers. For instance, a 2017 RWA survey reported 18% of romance readers were men, implying women comprised about 82% of the audience. See, the difference there is still just 1%. But in an article titled, "Are We Having a Romance Renaissance?" by Julia Rittenberg from Book Riot, we get the following. So why am I making this a gendered argument? Well, the real answer is I'm making the gendered argument there in order that we don't have to make the gendered argument. I'm making the gendered argument there because I think that what we're really talking about is niche literature, though one appeals predominantly to men, one appeals predominantly to women. Romance appealing predominantly to women, comic books appealing predominantly to men. Though, again, not a whole lot of Book Riot articles arguing on behalf of comic books these days. Romance novels cause debate, and they always have. There are regular arguments about if they are the correct books to read, if women are developing unrealistic expectations through reading them, and how the books themselves come into existence. Despite, or maybe because of, ongoing debates, romance novels are unavoidable. Considering this, in addition to recent trends in book buying, we're living through a major romance renaissance. Now, what I want to talk about here is sort of this area of the paragraph there. And when I say I don't care, I am not making an argument counter to the author here. I think I'm agreeing with the author here. I don't care if unrealistic expectations are developing. Media is all about unrealistic expectations, from movies to books to video games to TV shows to the newspaper, all of it is about a hyper sensualized version of life. Who cares? If women are developing unrealistic expectations through reading them, that is on the reader, not the writer, not the market, not the book. It is incumbent upon the reader to have their mind made up for themselves. And I'm going to be honest, this part here, I'm assuming that this and how the books themselves come into existence, I'm assuming there is some larger underlying argument there about how romance novels are written, or if there's big romance novel, the way you have big candy, you have big soda, you have big romance novel. If there is some argument there I don't know about, I don't care how they come into existence. They are literature, and they do. Romance novels in the United States. When you look at data about best-selling genres in the United States, romance consistently commands a strong market share. The journalistic Rosie Sima created a data visualization project to assess gender parity across several decades of the New York Times bestseller list. And romance is a consistent force in the book industry. It is also one of the few genres where female writers outnumber male writers. I would like to know as of when that statistic is made. One of the few genres where female writers outnumber male writers. Have you been to Barnes & Noble lately? Have you been in a writer's program lately? Have you been in an English literature department lately? I don't imagine this is correct or correct any longer. I don't know when this is coming from. I can pop off my shelf the best American short stories of X, Y, or Z year. I guarantee you it's at least 50-50, and I know that's short stories and not novels, but short stories are often the sort of competition grounds for novel writers of the future. That's kind of all I want to talk about in that paragraph there. In 2023, romance novels experienced a boom in sales that experts attributed to both the popularity of the television show Bridgerton and the reading taste curated by the influence of TikTok and the tag BookTok. In 2024, the romance genre still sold extremely well, garnering around 30 million print sales. And in 2025, the blockbuster novel Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros became the fastest-selling adult novel in 20 years. And no matter how you feel about her writing, Colleen Hoover's romance novels are a huge force in romance as well. Currently, readers may be seeking escapism, which romance is only too happy to provide. Not only that, romantasy is an ever-growing and questionably disgusting genre that I don't want to know much more about. But I don't need to. It's not for me. It is escapism the same way that video games, etc., are escapism. The question as to the literary merit of romance novels is just this. Just like comic books, what this genre is doing is telling you something about the reader, telling you something from the writer. Everything in those books is there for a reason. It made sense to the writer to write down. On some level, it makes sense to the reader to read through. Both of those things must be true in harmony to do real numbers. Now, look, I read Twilight for the channel. I couldn't stand it. Wasn't written for me. There is something in that novel that spoke to a certain generation of young women. That is just true. I don't have to like it. I don't have to support it. I don't have to say that Twilight is just as literarily valid as the complete poems of Emily Dickinson. I don't have to believe that. But it is incumbent upon me, if we can go back to incumbency, to figure out why that novel rang true with an entire generation of girls, young women, and women. By the way, it might be where the romantasy genre got its legs. You're talking about a girl dating a vampire and a werewolf. So, these sales numbers are just part of the story. The romance renaissance happening right now is a combination of fandom and market forces. Not only are fans loud and proud about what they love, publishers have been listening to them. Writers get more attention, and romance bookstores provide a space for fans and readers to gather. It would be a missed opportunity to read this paragraph and not take a moment to reflect, perhaps, about the state of society. Is this, could we get an argument from this and the steadily dropping birth rates? If you were turning to literature for romance, if you were turning to comic books for your chance to feel the hero, is it because these things are no longer there abundantly in society themselves, society itself? The individual is not able to find the romance in their life. The individual is not able to find his or her Gwen Stacy. Is that what's going on with a sudden boom in fantasy literature or romance literature? What writers and fans are feeling about romance. I don't have a TikTok account, but I know which books are popular on BookTok because the concept has integrated itself throughout the bookish internet and into the brick and mortar bookstores. My local Barnes & Noble has a BookTok table, though the table usually includes the literary fiction that's popular on the app, like My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Most of the books, what a tear away from last week's Friday reads. Most of the books are romance, many of those romance novels mix genres as well, as is the case with romantasy and paranormal or sports romance. The cultural force of romance has always been there, but now it's out in the open. Let your freak flags fly. I'm glad I did not stumble on those words too terribly. In an interview reflecting on her career, romance novelist Beverly Jenkins has seen romance become more diverse. I think romance is, more than any other genre, reflecting how America looks. You're going to see queer love, you're going to see black love, you're going to get the love about people who look like everyone else. The diversity that we get in romance speaks to what romance fans want to read. The runaway success of LA-based bookstores The Ripped Bodice has led to the opening of plenty more romance stores. You can find 43 in the United States in this directory. Claire Mazur, one of the founders of the 831 stores, sees fans and the bookstores working together. Both the fandom and the romance-focused bookstores have encouraged readers to be loud and proud about their love of the genre and have helped spread an understanding and an embrace of what it means to be a romance fan. So that is sort of all I have from the article. The argument here for me is basically this. Who cares? And I don't mean that in a dismissive way. I mean that in a supportive way. As supportive as I suppose a millennial can be. Who cares? Who cares? The argument really here is that someone somewhere is saying we shouldn't love this. Someone somewhere is saying we shouldn't have this. You don't make an argument for the validity of something without feeling that you are arguing against someone else's take that something shouldn't exist. I think, sort of broadly speaking, I don't know where the impetus comes from for this article. I don't know who is saying romance shouldn't exist. The reason I wanted to really concentrate on it for a show is this. I think it's the same argument as the argument for comic books. Here's one thing that I have always said about literature. You can be an absolute stooge and pick up a book of Shakespeare's sonnets and look at it and say, that's literature. The real testament to an intelligence is to be able to pick up something that is written not to be literature, something that is written to be true to itself, something like romance, something that is written to be true to itself, something like comic books. Look through the pages of those things and be able to tell, hey, this right here, this is the literature of this. This connects to the larger sort of dynamic of humanity. That is what literature is about. If you can do that with comic books, if you can do that with romance novels, that is the true testament to whether or not you are a dedicated and competent reader, whether you are truly literate or not. Now, as far as the Friday Reads portion of this video goes, I'm going to level with you. I am cramming to get ahead to get to National Poetry Month a little bit early. I need to get to my production there because that production is going to be extensive, way more production value stuff than I have done in the past. And I have to get some of this work done early, so I am getting this video shot a little bit earlier than normal. And it is going up early to be scheduled to drop later. So the only thing I have really read besides poetry since the last time is God Rest You Merry Gentlemen by Ernest Hemingway. And really counter to this argument here today, what that short story is about is a young man wanders into the doctor's office and begs to be castrated because he cannot stop the lustful thoughts going through his head. The doctor says, no, not going to do that. There's nothing wrong with him. No one's going to do this for you. And he goes away, thinks he knows what he's doing, comes back 1 a.m. The ambulance brings him in. Turns out he didn't know what castrate meant. He had cut off his male member and might bleed out. The horrible irony there is that the penis is not where testosterone comes from, so its removal will not stop those lustful thoughts. You just won't have the pressure release valve afterwards. So that is the only short story that I've read. It's one that you definitely remember it from Hemingway. Is one that I remember for 2 reasons, not only because of the sort of sensational content within, but also the fact that it's set in Kansas City. I am a Kansas Citian. So that is always a nice story to read. That is in the Ernest Hemingway read-along series here on the channel. So if you are interested in Ernest Hemingway, consider checking that out. But other than that, it's just been poetry, and you will see those poems next month on National Poetry Month. So that's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.